The Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is currently speaking at the World Economic Forum Africa in Durban. Let's go live.
A variety of non-governmental organizations have been here and making meaningful and really outstanding inputs, and civil society activists representing communities and a number of other sectors in our various countries. All of us have had the consensus that the continent needs to pursue a path of accelerated economic growth, but growth that is sustainable, but more importantly, the type of growth that is inclusive. The people of this continent must not only share in the benefits of this growth, but they must, as a people, also own, control, and direct the levers of economic activity on the continent. From the discussions that have taken place, including some that I've had the privilege of participating in, there is an understanding of a great deal of urgency that needs to be injected in everything that we do, particularly to address the issues of exclusion, of inequality that continues to rage on our continent, but also unemployment, and to hear tales of how the young people on our continent continue to be without jobs, to be economically inactive, is a matter that should concern all of us. Underpinning all these discussions, in my view, there is a fundamental imperative. It has been covered in a number of sessions that addressed this fundamental imperative. It is this fundamental imperative that is the critical guarantor, in my view, of sustained and sustainable inclusive growth on the African continent. It is this imperative that will, in the end, transform Africa from a continent of promise into being a continent of prosperity. This imperative, which must inform our every policy and indeed our every action, is the development of the mind and the capabilities of those people, that cohort, that will inherit the outcomes of all the endeavors that we put into the future of the African continent today and tomorrow. For it is in the mind of the African child that the future of this continent really finally resides. It is only by developing the capabilities of our young people that we will achieve the inclusive economic growth that we so aspire to have. It is only by developing the intellectual capacity of the African workforce of the future that we will be able to effectively exploit our abundant resources for the benefit of the people of this continent, and in the end, be able to seize the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. Without doing this, much of what we could be looking at could be a pipe dream. The development of Africa's children and its youth needs to be at the center of all our economic policies. This means that we must give just as much attention to the maternal health as we do to the expansion of free trade areas. It means that we must invest as much in early childhood development as we do in energy, communications, and infrastructure. It means we must act with urgency to end AIDS, TB, malaria, and other diseases of poverty, not only so that we may save lives, but also so that the people of this continent should be able to prosper. In the main, we need a comprehensive overhaul of our approach to education. Not only do we need to prepare our children for the workplace of tomorrow, we need to nurture on this continent the young people that will shape the industries of tomorrow, particularly as we enter the fourth industrial revolution. The work that is being done to promote science and innovation in Africa through initiatives like the Coalition for Research and Innovation, and which is being championed by the World Economic Forum, is contributing directly to this effort. By building networks of knowledge across the continent, by pooling resources, and by developing shared research capacity across different African countries, we are creating a new scientific ecosystem. As we pursue new standards of excellence in research and learning, we need to work more deliberately to ensure that we broaden access to education to all the people on this continent. We need, in particular, to focus on the education of girls and young women, addressing the social, cultural, and economic factors that continue to limit their access to education in many countries. We need to ensure that the rural poor on our continent, migrant communities, and those displaced by conflict are also able, even as they go through very trying and difficult situations, are also able to access quality education. We need to ensure that higher education does not become the preserve of the emerging middle class on our continent. Education must reduce inequality, and it must not be an instrument that perpetuates it. We know that Africa has an abundance of opportunities. We have extensive mineral resources under the soil and along our shores. We have vast tracts of unused arable land that could feed the entire world. We have a young population and a fast-growing middle class, yet our people will not be able to realize the full benefit of these opportunities unless we act now to develop this human capacity I'm referring to. The mineral resources we have, though abundant, are resources that are finite. They are prone to massive fluctuations in demand as well as price. Unless we have the technology, the knowledge, and the industrial capacity to beneficiate these mineral resources, our people will only derive a fraction of their true economic value. We need, as response and responsible leadership, to take a long view on all these matters. And we need to address the challenges of the present, but we also need to equip the next generation to address the challenges of the future that belongs to them. Our attention now needs to be on our ability to take action on deliverables. When we convene again in 2018, somewhere on this continent, We need to demonstrate the gains that have been made in expanding economic opportunities for all our people, but more importantly to the youth of this continent. We need to demonstrate how the economic status of women on our continent has improved, how we have expanded youth employment and skills development. We also need to demonstrate how our governments are managing public finances and are also allocating resources more effectively to support inclusive growth. We also need to demonstrate the measures that have been taken to reduce wastage, corruption, and mismanagement of the very scarce resources that many of our countries have. Most importantly, we need to demonstrate how we are massively expanding the provision of early childhood development, education, skills, and training, particularly to young people. To achieve progress in these areas, bold and responsible leadership is required on this continent. Governments need to give leadership, but so does the private sector, civil society, and labor as well. We need a leadership that will put the interests of the citizens first. We need a leadership that will build social partnerships for collective action in removing the barriers of economic inclusion. As we leave Durban, let us leave understanding the urgency of the task at hand. The extensive discussions that we have had on every subject that we have touched on, underpinned by the theme of responsible leadership as well as inclusive growth, should be the key propellers that will make us achieve the objectives and the goals that we have sought to set for ourselves. We need to work harder, but we also need to work more collaboratively with focus if we are to ensure that the millions of our peoples on this continent who are today marginalized do indeed have access to economic opportunity. Let us also leave understanding that our actions now will determine the fate of our continent for many generations to come. It is the type of future we intend to bequeath to future generations, to us, that all of us who are here should be concerned about. As leaders who are gathered here, and nearly all of us are leaders, we should be more focused and concerned about what is it that we are going to bequeath to that generation that is bound to come after us. And I'd like to believe that everything that we should do now should be with that in mind. What type of Africa are we going to leave for the youth, for the young people who are going to inherit this continent? Are they going to inherit ashes? Are they going to inherit half-baked solutions? Or are they going to inherit the best outcomes that we have tried to leave for them? I could not agree more with what Mr. Klaus Schwab said when he made opening remarks to this forum, when he said, leaders should lead with respect and dignity and consider themselves as trustees, and may I add, as guardians, and may I add, as bequeathers for future generations, and to serve their communities, and I would add, to serve that future generation rather than to serve themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to believe that we know what needs to be done. We are all aware of the solutions that can be embarked upon to make this continent a winning continent. It should be beyond theory now. It should be more action. And if all of us, if all the countries of this continent can put the interests of our people first and the interests of the future generations first, Africa is definitely a winning continent. And I would agree with my sister that it should be seen as Africans rising rather than Africa rising. Thank you very much.